Yo, 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 everybody, what's going on? Welcome to episode 44 of Climbing the Ladder. I'm your host, ChanmanV, and joining me as always, my cohort in crime, Mr. John Clark. What's up, John?
Not much. How are you?
Good, good. And we have the pleasure of welcoming one of the best StarCraft II casters and most beloved one, actually. Fresh off the Good Show. We just saw him a few seconds ago, maybe a couple minutes ago on the Good Show. We have the pleasure of welcoming him today since he's such a busy guy. So I was really fortunate to really get some time with you. But it's Mr. Shaun Clark, aka Apollo. What's up, Shaun?
Hey man, thanks for having me. It's a first ever been on an esports show with a family member, so I'm very happy to be with John, my uncle.
Yes. Long lost. Yeah, your uncle. All right.
So John, where's your British accent, man?
Where's my what?
British accent.
We were separated at birth, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually never met him before.
He's my brother from another mother.
They kind of look alike. If you got one of those apps that kind of melded y'all's faces, maybe kind of similar. But so anyway, Shaun, awesome to have you on, and we should just call this Apollo Tuesday, since you're gonna be on the Good Show and now Climbing the Ladder. If you just jump on Real Talk and then Inside the Game, you'll have a set right there, man.
Full house.
Exactly. But all right, let's get straight into these topics. You're fresh off of the University Star League. Kind of want to maybe just ask you how that went. I kind of caught the end of it, so caught the finals, and it was great seeing Madalis win. So I just kind of want to get your thoughts on the whole event and how everything went.
Sure. The event was fantastic to be a part of, even though it was a hidden thing. We didn't announce that we were going to go there or anything. We basically showed up, me, James, Semler, Adebisi, Trance, just showed up, and then we're like, okay, we're there. Obviously the production knew QPAD, because we're in close contact with those guys, but everyone that kind of organized the university, aside from a few key members, all the audience had no idea what we were doing and what we were going to do, so it was kind of just, we appreciate their hard work and what they do, right. So let's, do something nice for them as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they all appreciated seeing you guys there. I didn't realize the whole team was there. I just saw that you were casting, and I thought that was really cool, given, the event. Is it similar to CSL in a way? I mean, I don't know that much about the University Star League, so...
Well, neither do I, to be honest, but it's basically what I can see is that the University Star League in Stockholm right now is what CSL at the very, very beginning used to be.
Okay.
It's just a bunch of college guys that are working together to try and build something within their university, and they have similar goals. They want to push forward. They want to make something that can be, accessible for not just Stockholm, because it's only just Stockholm schools, but they're looking to go, across the entire Sweden, and well, wherever they choose to go from there, I suppose.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, supporting those type of projects too is really great. So, props to you guys for doing that, supporting QPAD and those guys. All right, let's get into some of these quick news topics we have. I think the first thing I have is just League of Legends LCS Week 1. Kind of want to get y'all's thoughts on it. We don't typically talk too much about League on the show, but we've been starting to talk. We're definitely transitioning a little bit more into some League topics, just given all the great things that Riot's doing. But I just wanted to start off by seeing if you guys watched any of the coverage in NA or EU.
You can start, John.
I actually did, believe it or not. I wanted to tune in because if I'm gonna, talk about the league and the league structure, I should probably understand a little bit of the production. I thought the production was pretty good. I understand, and I only tuned in for a little bit, but I understand there were some issues with Twitch chat. There's some YouTube issues. So, obvious growing pains. Nothing really we haven't ran into before and hasn't been fixed. The next time around. But I did think the presentation of the matches went well, and I think it was each team played 3 games in Week 1. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it was 3. Definitely 2. I think it was 3 though. I think a majority of them played 3. I'm not sure if all of them did or not. But.
I checked it completely out. I really did, because I have a real interest in what Riot's doing here, because I think that it's in line with a lot of structural ideas that I've had in the past that I think will help grow esports. So I did check it out quite a bit. I checked out the LOL esports website, very nicely laid out. The match pages were nice. I mean, it looked professional, and
Cool.
obviously they had some hiccups, but perfectly normal. I talked a little bit on a different show last night about their overall league structure. Something I don't care for, but we don't have to get into that. But I think overall it looked really good. It's a really good start.
What'd you think, Shaun?
Yeah, my turn. To be honest, I've got nothing.
How many words? How many words?
I can't, top what John just said, but I tuned in for the first few minutes. I don't watch League of Legends. I don't follow the scene at all. But I tuned in just to have a look at the production value and just to have a look at what it's like, because that's their premier tournament, obviously, that Riot are doing. So I looked at it just to compare what it's like to what we have in StarCraft. And the North American one, I was impressed. They got a nice desk set up. I like how it's set up. The presentation of the opening day, the opening show, is the one I watched, was really good as well. I liked how they delivered what they wanted to put out there. I also watched the European one, and I think they mentioned on the Good Studio as well that it wasn't as good as it could have been. I didn't think the production value was as strong as it could have been. It didn't seem like it was a major thing, because if you compare the European one to the North American one and you look at what's different, I think you're going to see a lot different between the two streams.
I mean, do you think I kind of agree with you too. I mean, I think overall, mission accomplished, I think, with week 1. And agree with you, John, too, that there's going to be some growing pains. Of course, there were some streaming issues, both with Twitch and with YouTube. But, overall, the coverage was there. I mean, you could go to one or the other, and you were going to get pretty much what you wanted to see. But do you think the production, Shaun, at all had to do with casting? Or was it just mainly just the overall setup of it?
The overall setup of it. I mean, I can't judge too much on what people say in terms of casting. I can see their presentation and how things roll and what they put across, verbally comparing it to what I do, and it seemed great. They talked about good rivals with the teams. They built a storyline straight off the bat, which is the day one I saw. It's like CLG versus somebody. Is it TSM? Is it they have Curse?
Or no, the TSM. Yeah, TSM CLG was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got that one.
Yeah.
So they talked about the rivalry between the two players, or the two teams, and they built a good story. It was really interesting for me that if that wasn't League of Legends, I was feeling compelled to watch it. But then as the game started, I dropped off from there. So up to that point, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I think all the hosts and the casters did a great job. I mean, I don't know. I have to say, I think I enjoyed Joe's casting the most out of all of them. He's such a badass.
Yeah. Dude, Joe is so good at casting, and the thing is, a lot of StarCraft 2 community members will look at him and be like, League of Legends have picked up a pretty good caster. Well, Joe's, if you guys know, he's been there forever, man. He's like one of the oldest casters there is. So he's got so much experience, and he really is, someone that even I look up to as a caster and see what he's doing differently. And Demon the same. Demon's like Joe, been there forever. So these two guys are the cream of the crop when it comes to casting. Yeah,
it was great seeing them together, and then Shock's hosting the whole thing. That was cool to see her doing that. And speaking of Joe and Paul are going to be casting together very soon, I think. Hopefully that's going to be amazing, I think, to see them casting together. But all right, let's move on. The next thing I have is the Beyond the Summit Kickstarter on Indiegogo. So let me show you what I'm talking about exactly, guys. So Beyond the Summit's been doing Dota 2. What happened here? Shoot. Been doing Dota 2 content for a while now, and something's wrong with the web page. But they recently announced, I think it was Gods and LB announced this Kickstarter to raise $25,000 to start up a studio, so that it can make more Beyond the Summit content for the Dota 2 community. And it's definitely a great project. I mean, a lot of people like the BTS stuff and the content, and support them. I think they've they started from scratch, and it's just been all about community support and building content that way. But I kind of wanted to bring up the question of whether you think that a crowdsourced studio is a good idea, or just from a long-term standpoint, whenever they will start monetizing their content. What do you think, Shaun?
Okay, so from my perspective, once again, not something I followed intensively, being wrapped in StarCraft 2 so much, but from comparing it to what we have here in the studio, Money to start a studio is always going to be good. It buys you the equipment you need. It allows you to go somewhere. But at the end of the day, the studio here, even if we look at the money that was initially put into it, there has to be some other way to also make money, which to sustain that, right? You can always go ahead and be like, all right, let's get this new studio. Here's a deposit, and you spend a lot of that money that you've made. Here's rent for X amount of months. But what happens when that money's gone? Where do you go from here? Can you keep up with what you're doing? And it's not like I'm worried about them not being able to do that, because they are one of the prime guys in Dota that produce all this content. So that would be the only kind of concern when I'm looking at that with such a ignorant eye set. I'm sorry.
John, what do you think?
I would echo a little bit of his concern, is that have they laid out, and I did look at the website a little bit as far as their plan goes, but have they laid out some of those avenues down the road that they'll hopefully create revenue from, and have they made it clear that and you were talking about this earlier, Chris, is the content going to be free forever, or are they going to look for the users at some point to create revenue from? If that's the case, it'd be nice if they, just be completely transparent with it. I still question that it's $25,000 for setting up a studio in LA. Just seems absurdly low. And then it was pointed out that the site at which they're running the crowdsourcing from, unlike with Kickstarter, where if you don't reach your goal, you don't get a dime. But on this site, apparently, if they get 17,000, they get it. So what are their plans? What are their exit plans for that? I mean, how are things going to work out if they only get, let's say, 15K?
They've already gotten 30, so that's not the issue.
Geez, that's quick. Then.
I wish the site's actually down. So
I think that it's
right now, you can't.
Yeah. Overall, I think that it's a great idea. I mean, if I'm going to sell bacon on a stick and somebody's going to buy it, good for me. And if they're going to offer up an opportunity, I mean, if they're going to offer up the user, the community opportunity to be a part of this, and they want to do it, then that's good for them. I mean, I don't have to donate to it. Good thing is if I enjoy it, then I didn't have to put anything in, and I still get to enjoy it. So,
for me,
I don't really have a problem with it.
For me, I'm kind of torn on it, because I think from a high level standpoint and just more of a theoretical standpoint, I'm completely okay with crowdsourcing and having funding esports projects and that sort of thing. But for me, with a studio, for some reason, it's a little different for me, because like you said, 25,000 isn't that much, and they're talking about doing more of a home story type, home like a take type of studio, like in-house type of thing. And they kind of laid out what they were going to do if they raised 50 to 100, and that just what they were kind of event they would do. And for me, it's just since it's not like you said, it's not completely transparent, laid out enough for me to have confidence that they're just not going to come and do it again. What keeps them from going and doing another Indiegogo or a Kickstarter again for just another event. And
for another event or for additional things?
I mean, additional things. I mean, it's just, I don't know, something about that doesn't feel right, especially if eventually, I mean, they're going to monetize eventually, right? And the people that invested in this...
We would hope that that's the case, that they're going to monetize. That's why I'm saying I think they need to lay that out a little bit more.
Yeah, and, they should monetize, because, they should be paid for that, but I don't know, for me, I just feel like if they keep making free content, I can totally understand the model. But once they start monetizing, that's when it kind of becomes a little bit conflicted for me. But, anyways, I mean, best wishes to them. I mean, they do great stuff. I mean, Gods and LD are awesome. So, I wish them the best, and hopefully that studio ends up being, really, really success for them. All right, next topic, the ESL announcement. So Red Eye kind of jumped on, and unfortunately Red Eye's not on here. Still having internet issues, guys. I mean, I promise Red Eye is not just like our fake prop host on the side here.
We just used him to get extra viewers.
Yeah, exactly. Red Eye's just throw his name drop him. No, but he mentioned today that they made an ESL announcement, and
earlier than expected.
Let me show it to you guys. So the whole announcement is basically regarding prize money, and ESL for a long time has always been dogged for not paying out all their prize money. And the announcement is basically after 12 years, come February, they will be completely paid from the standpoint of past prize money that's owed. And on top of that, I think Ralph, the CEO, is going to have an AMA later this week to cover any topics needed. And I think the AMA has a lot to do with the League of Legends post that happened earlier this morning, which was basically saying that ESL wasn't paying out their money.
Well, not just ESL. Let's be clear. I mean, they were
not
also
just ESL.
dogging on Riot as well.
Yeah, Riot and ESL, but so basically a team member from Team Synthesis was laying this out, basically saying he was getting the runaround when it comes to ESL and Riot, and so there's kind of this kind of mixture of the two. I know the statement kind of sounds weird, but again, Ralph will be on doing an AMA on Reddit later on this week, answering any questions. It's probably just mostly a communications issue, I'm sure. Just whether you get paid out. I bet Team Synthesis gets paid out really fast. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Oh, they most certainly will. And remember what Paul told us, and he actually told us a couple weeks ago. I think he may have forgot, but he reminded us again that one of the reasons that he jumped on board with ESL, and he made it very clear to management, was that if he was going to jump on board with ESL, he wanted to make sure that everyone that hadn't been paid yet was going to be paid. And they were on board with it. I mean, obviously that was, ESL is not going to survive if they just stop paying people. So it's not like they weren't trying. And I think I wanted to speak on this a little bit, having been in this situation where you're looking to Riot or, other sponsors, Twitch, AverMedia, things like that you've basically contracted out an opportunity to do an event with, or in this case, their Go for LOL series, which was a contract that was set up at the beginning, and then they divvied it up, like how are they going to do the tournaments and things, and what sort of prizing for each. When you're dealing with that, sometimes you are at the mercy a little bit of your sponsors. They have their own timelines, and it may not completely fit with your timelines. So I think players do need to be a little bit more patient, or a little bit patient. But obviously, in cases where you're waiting 12 months, 6 months, that's unacceptable. But I just don't think that it was ESL, intentionally trying to do this. I mean, they've had their own issues. I don't think it's an excuse, and Paul will say that as well. I mean, he's not saying you should just excuse it, but I think their goal to make sure everyone's paid by the end of February is a very good start.
Shaun, what's your experience with casting and not getting paid?
It's similar to players. It does take time. There are usually when because it's an invoice rather than, I don't think players do invoices because it's employment rather than prize money.
Yeah, that's true.
When you do an invoice, the good studio, the agency, it's like a 4-week friendly line. You can pay 4 weeks from now. So it's always at least a month, but there are a lot of people or companies that take longer than that, and it has always been the same. It's not talked about so much in casting than it is as players, but it is relatively similar. And then the big tournaments, MLG, DreamHack, everyone usually always pays on that date. It's the smaller things that don't get done, small contract work or something like that. That's the more painful stuff, because people are waiting on money to come in, budgets from different quarters, and so on and so on. So it is relatively similar, but going on to specifically talking about ESL putting this out there, I think that's fantastic news, because one way or the other, they've put themselves out there, and if they don't pay everything by February, then they're going to get slaughtered, because some people are just going to come up and be like, you just told us that everything will be done by the end of February, and there will be so many threads all over Reddit, all over the forums. So I think it's just a great thing that they've done that, and that means at the end of February, they hopefully, otherwise they will be crucified, be clear.
Yeah, and kudos again to Paul for making that a stipulation for joining ESL. That basically this prize money gets paid. That's not very many people do that. Will actually put their foot on the ground and say, hey guys, I'm not going to work with you guys if you're going to have outstanding debt forever, that sort of thing. So awesome. That's why we love Mr. Red Eye. All right, let's move on to so region locking. And we'll probably get a little bit more into StarCraft 2 now. Finally, everybody's like, "Isn't this a StarCraft 2 show?"
Yeah, but it's not. These things that we're talking about are the same in StarCraft 2 as it's esports, basically.
Right. right? So let's talk about region locking. And we've talked about region locking kind of here and there, like many episodes, right, John? But we've never actually brought it up as a topic. And the guys on the Pulse brought it up on Sunday as a hot topic, and definitely had some views on it. And I wanted to get y'all's opinion, what your thoughts are, and especially you, Shaun, since you had so much experience.
Do you want to maybe just explain to...
Oh, yeah, region locking, okay.
What region locking is?
Yeah, so region locking is like a fancy term for basically, holding events that would be NA only, right, or EU only, or just regionally based, and basically no folks could come and snipe, from like none of the Koreans could come into, like, say, the NA tournaments or the EU tournaments, that sort of thing. That's what we're talking about. And WCS was kind of like an example of it that we had last year. You could say that was basically region locking. So is this a good idea? And I wanted to pose the question first to you, Shaun. It's given that you've had so much experience in EU, and I feel like you've kind of already had some of that just with the DreamHacks and ESL. I mean, to some degree, right? So What do you think?
Region locking is a good thing, but not something that should be used all the time. Esports isn't big enough. There isn't big enough players to make these smaller lockings worthwhile. I mean, why would you ever have a major event that locks out players that should be there? That doesn't make sense, apart from when you connect it like WCS did. They lock it from the lower stages of their tournament, the low tiers, and then as it progresses further, it unlocks itself. No longer are you playing in a national tournament, you're now playing in a regional tournament, and now you're playing in a world tournament. So I like the structure of that kind of tournament, but I don't think there should be too many of them. For example wise, is that the World Cyber Games, similar style, was always one tournament that stood out above everything else, which is what WCS did last year. But to have it more like that, I think would be a bad idea overall. I mean, why would you limit yourself? Why are there limitations when you shouldn't really be having them?
Yeah, what do you think, John?
No, I want to hear your opinion on it first.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm definitely a little bit torn on it. I mean, for sure, I wish there was more. Like, absolutely wish there was more than there is currently, because especially in the NA scene. The NA scene is just, I mean, we've talked about it before. There's just nothing for the NA folks right now. And there are enough personalities in NA, believe it or not, that could make, I think, entertainment. Something that's entertaining, and that enough folks, I think, would watch that would be deemed a success. And I understand why folks are arguing against it. I think, and most of it has to do with, just like you said, esports isn't big enough. So we need all the numbers we can get, right, to really, really sell StarCraft 2, for instance, and trying to get sponsors and that sort of thing. Like, if we just did NA only or EU only, even Korean only, it's not enough. So we kind of have to have these tournaments that have everybody in it, and just hopefully it's an aggregate of all, but it's never an aggregate of it all.
But don't you think don't you think you can actually build those numbers by region locking?
Yeah, so that kind of comes to that point, which is, I feel like, the regions right now are, I mean, it's just so weighted, like it's so heavy in Korea, and then EU is probably next to it, and then NA is just like at like below, I mean, as close to zero as you can get, and that's really a problem, because the potential revenue that comes from here in the US is enormous. It could be greater than all of them. I mean, honestly, just from a marketing standpoint and ad revenue. So, any little bit, even like just getting a little bit in NA would be, I think, super productive for esports in general. And yeah, so that's why I would definitely, I kind of agree with you that it shouldn't be the main structure for how we sell, esports StarCraft 2, for instance, but we should have a lot more. I mean, and on top of that, like, I think people like to see our favorites. Like, let's just throw Idra out there as an NA person. Mm-hmm. They want to see Idra win. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like watching Madalis win at the University StarCraft League. That was great. There was, mm-hmm. and there wasn't like the top players there. I mean, but that's okay. Like, we still love seeing our favorites win. And
would you suggest that the region locking goes even deeper? Like, for instance, regional growth in the sense of, a Midwest region, Southwest
we should just start with like, NA, like the bigger regions first. I mean, once we get that down, then who knows, right? But
well, from a top down. But I mean, look at like what Tespa's doing, and even what League of Riot's doing now with their college thing. In a sense, that's regional growth. Like
or ESC,
growing it at a grassroots level, and then we can filter it into a North America only tournament using these smaller regions to filter up into it. So that's why I asked the question: do you think it has more growth? Because personally, I think creating these pockets of regions where they grow kind of internally, and they don't feel like, boy, I'm gonna have to go play against XYZ. I'm just not even gonna show up because I'm gonna get my ass kicked. But in my region, I'm a stud. I'm the top dog in my region, and I think things like that actually create more users that are willing to play the game, which of course is what we need.
Yeah, I mean, another announcement that was made, I think yesterday, was what Esports Canada is doing with the Esports Canada Alliance, and how they're kind of joining up a bunch of these lands that are in Canada and kind of structuring a little bit more. So it kind of it's basically working towards a national championship, and then they would go and represent them in the IEF tournament. That's really cool. It's cool that people are trying to put that together. And we know Ken, right? So Ken's doing some good work there, and that's the kind of thing you're talking about, John, right?
Yeah.
So
I think that's a great idea. It gives Canada its own little circuit, and then that's where you can region lock, where you could even separate it from United States and Canada. I mean, in a sense, then you create those two separate regions. So I think there's a lot to it. I do agree with both of you guys. I think Paulo said it, that too much of that where we're not sharing the resources, in a sense, we're not cross-pollinating, is a bad thing. I think we definitely have to have some a mix of things in there to give these tournaments a little more flair and a little bit more competition, obviously.
So Shaun, you've done many like DreamHacks and ESLs, right? And one of the things I have to say about those tournaments is that I feel like the interest in the foreigners has always been super high at those tournaments because of really the number of Koreans that go. Because of where it is and because of how much it costs, a lot of Koreans don't go to those tournaments, and therefore, the gauntlet of Koreans is much less. And you probably have to play two or three Koreans probably at max, like through the the quarterfinals and that sort of thing, and you can win the tournament, right? And we've seen people win like Thorzane and Nurchio and get through that gauntlet. While like at MLGs, you probably have to play like 8, something crazy like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Koreans, I mean, before we go into that, I just wanted to go over what you were saying just a little bit before, because I was listening, because when I looked at the topics to talk about, I'm like, well, region locked, I guess I don't have too much to talk about there. But then hearing both your sides about it and then putting mine out there initially, is that I believe that region locking is important, but also it needs to be balanced. I think that's really important because, for example, the Swedish university that's just been played, right? How many more fans and following has Madalist now gained who will follow her into the next tournament that she goes to because that she was playing in a region locked tournament? It creates a stronger fan base from the bottom down. And if you look at any mainstream sport, for example, let's go to football. I'm English. Man United playing in the Premier League are doing really well. They're top of the league. And now they're playing in a European tournament, which is a bigger scale. Now they're playing against bigger players and stronger players. And they bring their fans with them to cheer them on at a different level. So I think the qualifiers to a lot of tournaments, I think IPL do the most satellite qualifiers for different regions. I think that's really, really good. But at the same time, it's very limited. It's an online tournament. It's simple. If there was money from sponsors that were willing to put money in something so small, or whether IPL are willing to budget costs to do something at a smaller level there, I think you could really grow that. I think an NA satellite qualifier that was more of a LAN, something more prestigious rather than an online tournament, would help grow the scene a lot better. I think John said that really well, because it will. Like I said with the example of Madalist winning her Stockholm University tournament, that will grow and it will eventually push to a greater thing. But at the same time, you have to balance that, because at the top level, you can't have these limitations. You can't have a $100,000 tournament that's only NA. Like, I don't think that's viable, because I don't think people would watch it. I mean, despite the amount of money that's there, a lot of percentage of players that watch and play StarCraft want to watch and play StarCraft to see the highest level of play, which you don't get at these specific satellites. But at the same time, you have to balance in building a fan base. So it really is, for me, listening to both of you guys speak about it, 50-50, which way do I go? But I think both points and both sides are really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a point that, the majority of the folks want to watch the top, the highest level of StarCraft, right? And that's kind of a point that I've been a little conflicted with, because I kind of agree with it, and it's hard for us. Just everybody probably even watching the show, including us, really make an objective view on it, because we are those folks. We are the hardcore kind of connoisseurs of StarCraft 2. We want to see the lives and the innovations of those guys at the highest level playing, and we appreciate it. But when it comes down to trying to sell StarCraft 2 esports to, say, here in the US, where there's not much traction at right now, I mean, the reality is, like, these players, they don't speak English right now. We can't even sell them. All we can sell them is their play. And if the folks that we're trying to get into StarCraft 2 don't really know the game, then it's actually more interesting to see guys like Idra and those guys, because I can talk about my experience. The first season of MLG that I watched, it was mostly NA. I have to say, not even EU. It's mostly NA. It was like Huck, and I think Naniwa was in it too. But it was Huck and Select and Idra and those guys. And I was completely happy watching that, because I didn't really necessarily know any better, right? But it was plenty entertaining for me. So I feel like there's, I'm a little conflicted as to how we sell, that statement, just like we all want to watch the best players.
For you guys, you're StarCraft 2 geeks, right?
Okay. Come on.
I'm not, or whatever.
What?
I don't know what the right word. You're nerd ballers, whatever.
Connoisseurs.
I am not.
Connoisseurs.
So I'm actually the perfect person, I think, to talk about the viewership of this, because as many tournaments that I've been involved in that have StarCraft 2 as one of their main games, right? And I've talked with players, and I'm on this show or whatever, and so I'm involved in the StarCraft 2 community to an extent. But and I'll have it on my screen, but I'm not like the guy that's like tuned in to exactly what's going on in the game, right? But the one thing I am tuned in is to the players, and it's easier for me as kind of an outsider to understand the guys like Idra, the Muslim, In Control, basically EG, the complexity guys, and Violet. And why Violet? Because his personality, well, one, he's in North America, or he was. His personality, and of course my being at CSN, but and even Stefano, and maybe it's the English thing, I don't know, but it was easier for me to be in tune with what they were doing and follow those storylines. Because for me, I can't even tell the difference between if someone's playing really good or not. But the storylines and the whole North America thing and the things that were happening here, I followed them. So I think it was IPL 4, and I think we talked about this before, Chris, is you followed it up to a point, and then when Stefano was out, or the last kind of foreigner was out, as you say, and it was all Koreans, it like dropped by like 10,000 people viewing.
That happens every tournament, guys. I mean, this isn't like it's statistically shown that that's what happens, and let's just put it bluntly, we like our own. I mean, we like whether it's like for a national type of support, whether it's the Olympics. I mean, I watch some Olympic sports. I don't even know anything about Olympic sports, but I'm going to support the U.S. team, right? And it's just like we just have that general affiliation.
Like curling.
It's the same in
I love
everything,
curling,
isn't
dude.
it? I mean, it's the same in every sport. It's just, if, for example, if you don't watch a specific sport, but your country team close where you used to live is in the finals, you're going to watch it. That's just how it works, right? But a question that I had a question for John. All right, so question for John, talking about this specifically, is it team's fault? Is it the players' fault for not pushing themselves out there? Because before I close this up, let's have a look now at Axiom, right? Axiom right now, before they were Axiom, yes, they had a personality built from Slayers, but were you more interested in them then, or are you now because of the way that Total Biscuit's been handling their PR?
I'm more interested in them now. I'm curious to see, how their team does. I want to follow the Axiom brand, the Axiom team. That's a very good question, actually. It's a very good question.
Absolutely, they can do a better job. I mean, there's no question, and we've been saying that a ton on the show too. That the teams need to step it up from a marketing standpoint, and what John and Jen are doing, really really great. And they have this platform that they can, just really push these players too. But again, like imagine if you took Crank and you replaced him with Stefano, what kind of content they could make there. I mean, I just feel like the content they make is better, in from the standpoint of marketing, that. I mean, even though Crank's an amazing player and, all those guys are amazing players, it's just, they are learning English. So like, maybe this issue that I'm talking about is not an issue in a year. A lot of these Korean players are learning English. So, who knows?
And, another good example, again, I think that's a team example, right? Now let's look at a player example who was 4GG on the more scale before he kissed Rachel on stage. Right? How many more fans did he make? How many more people are interested in what he does next because of that? That's something a player can do. MC was already, popular. He comes out with a coffin at the GSL thingy-majig or the Pro League thingy-majig. He had that sign for Idra or Stefano, whatever it was for Stefano at the recent IPL. It's things that players can do as well. Firebat Hero gets naked and jumps in the water because that's something that he could do. And it's the thing you have to balance in here as well is the Korean culture of things, right? So the Korean culture of things is to be shy, is to be respectful to anyone that's older than you. Are Koreans that travel to these tournaments going to express their real personality in front of people they don't know, scared if people are going to like them or not? And that's a big problem with StarCraft because Korean is so dominant and they're entering new tournaments. Maybe they are more comfortable in Korean tournaments, such as Firebat Hero doing that and being brave enough to do it. But, I think if they have that confidence or someone pushes them into doing it, because before Crank became Axiom and was singly sponsored by Total Biscuit, I went to dinner with them. We spoke in English to Crank. He spoke back in English. And the next day, we told him, when you play on stage, on your interviews, try your best to speak English because you will gain more fans. He did it. He gains more fans. So it is a hard thing to balance up. Going back to what you said about IPL4 and the mass amount of Koreans, there was who to follow. I mean, to be honest, I can't even name all the players that are at the top of IPL4 because they didn't do anything.
That's a good point.
So it's another thing, like we talked about region locking. It's a hard thing to balance because how do you weigh this up when there's more variables than you look with the naked eye?
Right. And I love how people throw around the word like affirmative action too and stuff like that with the region locking. It's not that at all. I mean, that's not that's not the same thing at all. So, and I think kind of putting a label on it is not the right thing to do because affirmative action always has this negative connotation. So
there's a guy in the chat that the University SL. Hello, saw you a couple of days ago. If you look at the GSL now, is in the GSL because it's been going for 3 years now. You know who everyone is. Like there's no unknown Koreans in Codes because you know everyone now. So you can go ahead and look at the Codes brackets and be like, God, it's these players playing against you because it's consistency, which is something that we rarely have in StarCraft 2 as well because it's a new game. There's new players rising, there's new strategies, it develops a lot more. So that's another thing that's even happening in this year. This year, 2013, will be more so the year of the players than it will ever be the casters and talent because of consistency. Because we're now seeing players, do better. But the spin, Heart of the Swarm comes out, and now where do we go from there?
Yeah. The year of the players. Somebody better tell MLG it's year of the players, guys.
It's not year of the developers.
Because they're going around sporting the casters more than anything else for Dallas. But yeah, so I mean, Heart of the Swarm. I mean, how's that going to change? Like your point there. Like, how is that going to change anything? Heart of the Swarm is. I mean, the players are still going to be the focus of everything. It's just going to be the Wild West in terms of what kind of content we see.
We're going back to day one of StarCraft 2 release, man. In terms of strategies that come out and stuff, it takes thousands upon thousands upon thousands and thousands of games to actually nail down balance. It took 3 years to get StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty at a good point. It took a very, very long time, and that's millions of games been played. Heart of the Swarm, yes, it starts with a leg up compared to Wings of Liberty because it is coming off, Wings of Liberty. But it's going to take a while. We're going to see a lot of inconsistency with tournament results because players are going to figure out things a lot faster. And it will be a little bit more difficult to keep up with things. But the best thing about Heart of the Swarm is that the personalities that have been created over 3 years are coming with it. And that's the real good thing. And you get fresh personalities. And to look at personalities and region locking and so on, do you think... oh, God, I lost my train of thought. I had a good question again. This happens a lot because I'm thinking about so many things at once.
Happens to me too, man.
Oh, man, I lost it. It's gone. Maybe it'll come back to me. It's gone.
Maybe say a random word. Hamburger. maybe
no, that's not helping.
Was it about the players' personalities and upping their game a little bit, or trying to help you here?
Well, maybe it has something to do with because Heart of the Swarm is kind of crazy from the playing standpoint, that their personalities will need to stand out more or something to that extent?
No, I think well, I don't know if that's.
I don't know.
I think players are just starting to see that if you want to be marketable, it's not, and this is kind of, it's not sad, it's just the way it is. It's not just about results. You have to have a personality in a lot of ways. If you want to be marketable and if you want to have followers or whatever it may be, sell T-shirts, you have to be marketable, and you have to find ways to kind of show your personality. And your personality is not going to be the same. There's not going to be, there's only one Indra. There's only one chef. But you have to find what's best for you and create a personality and not be afraid to show it, even if it's emotion that might piss some people off. I mean, I got into a little Twitter squirrel with Idra last night, and I loved it. I think it's great. I think esports needs more of that. I think esports basically needs more personalities.
It's funny that you mentioned the whole go ahead, Shaun.
No. I wrote it down. I wrote it down as I said I got it. So
Go for it. No, go.
All right. So what I was gonna say, and this is coming from a caster point now, is and does a caster need to do a better job displaying? Because for me, being the analyst caster, I'm meant to give you and show you what is good, why it's good. That's what I thrive off, right? Being this caster, I will go crazy if I see something good. So an example is I wanted to say is Dream at the Intel Stream Masters Katowice. So Dream was a 16-year-old, and I think this tournament I really casted it well because I built an image of a 16-year-old that's his first time playing. He's really good, but he's nervous, and I built this image up, and he played against Parting and beat Parting. And I think because at that level of Wings Liberty and me casting it, I'm at a level where I can see the finest details of the game. I can see everything. So when I go ahead and put that across there, I think that builds a better personality for the player, because not only am I building a story of a 16-year-old that's new to the scene, first live tournament, first time out of career, and then put across exactly what he's doing in the game and what that means. I think even the newer people, that don't watch and follow StarCraft as much, can appreciate what he's doing. And I think, this goes off to a completely different subject, but Rhett brought it up as well, is that he thinks, or did post about it a long time ago, is that the audience would appreciate StarCraft a lot more if the casting was at a higher level, because they don't see the fine details what players do and people that play the game do. Because if that was able to be translated over from expert knowledge to I can make you understand what's going on, I think the game will have more love and it will show more personality for the players, because a lot of the time players play their personality through the game. And I think if that can be shown, then I think we reach a new connection for professional StarCraft 2.
Yeah, no, those are really good points. Yeah, playing personalities actually comes through. Like Red's a good example. I mean, the guy, is known for droning, right? And you can even say he's created marketing slogans off of that, right? Which is kind of cool. But kind of adding to that too, Shaun, is that I think I absolutely agree that casters explaining it and really conveying to the audience, what's really going on, kind of. It goes along the lines of what I said before, which was in the past, which was really making how impressive these players are, apparent to all the viewers. And for me, it's always been more of a physical thing. So finding a camera angle that really puts that picture of them, like controlling everything on the screen and it just, really just coming together. But yeah, I think casters can add to that too, really just talking about the strategies and making them understand just how awesome it is that they either came up with that or they're able to execute it like the way they did. I mean, that's impresses us, right? And that's what really ties us to that player. So
yeah, that's always
really
been one
cool.
of my goals, to be a caster. That's always been one of the strong goals for me, improving myself, is that, you know, if there's someone out in the audience that knows more about this guy than I do, then I'm not doing my job right. That's always been one of the things I've said to myself for a very long time, because it disappoints that guy. But if you now let's link this together with region locking, right? So let's go ahead and say that we do have an NA tournament, and there's this guy that's made his way through, and now he's won this NA, and he's got a big following with him. And then you go into a bigger tournament, a global tournament, and this guy's playing, and if the casters, you know, don't necessarily know as much as you guys know that are following him through, they need to be emphasizing the whole point. You know, they need to build the tension, build the storyline and so on. And I think that's something that will develop more, because consistency is the key to everything, with casters becoming stronger and better, and, you know, giving the players the spotlight that they deserve. Because there's tournaments I've listened to before in the past that, you know, I'm not going to name names, but there's casters that have gone ahead and said, and the player from France is playing, or the player from X is playing, and he plays this race. And, you know, there's no deep build towards it.
That's when you have a brain fart, man. And you're like the player from France.
Would you say, Apollo, in your example that you gave, for instance, that if that player that made it through the NA ranks, you know, and he was exposed, and the casters were able to tell his story, which is really important, I think, as you said, and then he gets into this major tournament, and let's say the casters do a really good job at further exposing him and letting people know his backstory, and then he doesn't do very well. Obviously, results do matter, are important as well. Yep. But he doesn't do very well, and then he does nothing, as you said before. He does nothing for himself from that point forward to market himself, to do anything, to have any interaction with the community. Would you agree that at that point he's just going to die off? I mean, his
yeah, consistency, man. It has to, they have to be doing something all the time, because I'm scared of that. When I go inactive for a while, people forget you. It's unfortunately the way esports is. You know, if you win a tournament a year ago, who are you now unless you've done something, unfortunately? Because that's just the freshness of this sport. This is what it is. It's a strategy game that is new. Heart the Swarm is new. You know, Legacy of the Void is coming out in X amount of time as well. So consistency has to be a key. Even if you're not performing well, you need to be doing something. You know, whether it's improving your stream and making it enjoyable for people to watch you out of your tournament circuit, and so on and so on. So I think this is obviously quite important.
All right, well, guys, let's take a break, a mini break. This is our first break we're ever taking on Climbing the Ladder, so that you guys can go get a drink or buy or whatever.
We can warn you now. We don't have any sort of timer.
No timer.
You want to give them an idea of how long the break might be, and they can.
Yeah, break's going to be a couple minutes, but we will be right back, guys. So enjoy the music. All right, we're back. How was your break?
Mine was great.
Yeah, mine was great too. All right, let's get into some casting. That's one of the big things, or that's how we titled this episode is Ascension as a caster. But want to get into some your casting topics with you, Shaun, and wanted to start off with really talking about just your ascension as a caster. I feel like from the standpoint of just all the top casters, I feel like your career has progressed the fastest out of everybody. I mean, a year ago, you were doing smaller tournaments, and I think, right, you're still doing smaller tournaments. You hadn't quite had that IEM tournament with Day 9 yet, right? Is that right? Am I getting the dates wrong?
My first tournament with Day 9 was 2010.
Oh, was it 10? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. See, that's like 2 years, 1 year. That's like how how much it's been flying for me. But yeah. So I feel like when you're comparing yourself to like Day 9 and Tasteless and those guys, I mean, you've obviously had a very, very steep rise. So I wanted to get your just some of your comments on that, and wanted to ask you what do you think were the most crucial and pivotal points in your during that time as for your career?
Okay, so I guess there's different important points throughout the entire of my growth. Start from the start is that I used to play, so I didn't initially come from StarCraft, which is probably the disconnect that I had compared to everyone else. Everyone else played Brood War in the back in the day. Everyone else was a name and a face from there too. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I played a lesser game that wasn't as popular. I had to connect into a different not a different genre, a different game, a different title, which was the most difficult part. Luckily enough, I actually had a poker friend who lived in Korea. In 2008, 2009, I met him in 2007, which was the year I won World Cyber Games. We become really, really close friends, spoke every day. He invited me to Korea in 2009, and I spent 2-3 months in Korea in 2009, and likewise again in 2010, the summer of. And I got to meet and connect with the StarCraft community, which was Autosis and Tasteless at the time. And I met up with them, I hung out with them, we become really good friends. And so the first point of my rise as a caster was making that connection. And then after coming home in the summer of 2010, I emailed ESL saying, I'd really like to look at the approach for casting. I've lived in Korea with Autosis and Tasteless, so there's the connection. Can I give me a chance to do this tournament, which is then coming into the first tournament with Day 9, and that was the first big point of my career.
Okay, since that point, since that big moment where you're actually casting with Day 9, that's always going to be a huge moment for any caster, just given how big Shaun is right now and how sought after he is, right? So that's really, really great thing. Since then, what's been some of the other pivotal points for you, like even from a learning standpoint, or even from just more of a networking opportunity standpoint?
I think the best opportunity I was given was because of Too Good, which is why I'm here now, because he put me into DreamHack. So I did my first DreamHack tournament in 2010 as well, because he said this guy can be good, this guy can do well, trust in me to trust in him to do this. And then combining that effort with hard work was the real get-go for me. And I was able to do that, and that put me out there a little bit more. Was able to do this able to build myself through hard work. It was all hard work, because at that point I wasn't getting paid for any of this. I was casting events for free. They'd offer me travel and stuff, and it was always a beginning point. And from there on out, with all this hard work, the next major point in my career was the IPL 3 tournament. When I first went to America for my first StarCraft 2 casting gig, I was extremely nervous because I put a lot of. The thing is, nerves, I think. Trying to go a little bit off topic, nerves, I think, shine so much more when you do all the hard work and it's now time to put it on.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I can do it, but can I really do it? And that was probably one of the most...
Well, yeah, you put the pressure on yourself.
Exactly, and I really did that tournament because I worked so hard. I knew it was my first big tournament. It was a brand new audience in North America that had never seen me before, unless they, were involved in DreamHack, or maybe they had seen me, but I was just Day 9's partner or Total Biscuit's partner for doing some stuff with him. But this is my first get-go tournament, and it was without Total Biscuit, which unfortunately for him, he couldn't make it, but fortunately for me, I was given this opportunity to work with DJ Wheat, and I was paired up with DJ Wheat. So I was very nervous about it, and that was the first time I got put into a different scenario, and I did it. You know, I nailed it. In my opinion, back then was a utmost perfect cast. Even though perfect probably doesn't make sense, but a really good cast. You know, I nailed everyone's strategies. I nailed who they are, where they are from, you know, how they got there, their play styles. I was able to pick apart what they were going to do before they did it, which is the real highlight of how I become famous, is that I'm able to predict things that they're going to do in the future based on how they're playing and their history as a player. And IPL 3, given that opportunity to work there with DJ Wheat, really shine that more so than anywhere else I've ever been to. And I think that was one of the biggest points where people were like, okay, this guy's really good at casting. And from there, it just kind of went even further and faster than it ever had before.
Yeah.
Was that your first time in North America, by the way?
My first time, I played in the World Cyber Games 2007 in Seattle. And I'd also done some community work with EA to help develop their games as well before. So I've been there a couple of times.
And by the way, most people get nervous the first time they meet Wheat. So
yeah, I was.
Okay.
He's so
the funny
handsome.
thing is with Wheat is he casted my World Cyber Games final games.
Okay.
Oh man! Now you're making him feel old,
met
man.
him for the first time
He is old.
to cast with him, so it was like, whoa, you know, this actually happening? And it really was never, because I respected DJ, and I still do, because he's done so much hard work for esports and the community, and you know that also added to the pressure too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you and Wheat are in a way a better combination than I think like somebody like Shaun and, you know, Day 9 and you, because, you know, the roles are very apparent, you know, with Wheat being more of a play-by-play kind of guy and you being the analyst, right? Where, you know, with Shaun, he's kind of a mixture of both. Both of you guys, I feel like, are little Swiss Army knives in a way when it comes to casting. I mean, you could solo cast really well, or you do solo cast really well, Paul. So, so I mean, I'm not surprised that it was, you know, you were definitely showcased a lot better in that setup there. You know, so you mentioned the good agency and James really helping you out with that huge thing with DreamHack. Why don't we just skip to that? I want to talk to you about just being a caster and how the agency has helped you with this, mixed with just your networking. Yeah, so when it comes to getting gigs.
So originally, before I was a part of the studio, is pretty much everybody, aside from Tastosis, who are now with EMG, used to talk with tournaments and negotiate for themselves, which is never really a good process to go through, because if you think about getting offered almost nothing and then being like, you know, guys, I've done a lot of stuff by myself for a little money, can I have more? You know, it's something that you shouldn't do. You don't say, you know, thanks for offering me $500, but I'd like 1,000. You know, so it's like you can't. It doesn't work like that. So luckily for me, I had James way back when who talked to DreamHack, because in the early stages, and James had done it on his Real Talk and mentioned it, that, you know, I was getting paid for the first DreamHack I did was free. The second DreamHack was like €300 or something.
Oh,
and then James was like, all right, guys. You know, because he's really connected with them too. He was like, all right, it's time to pay up a little bit more than that. And, you know, that's how I got my first little bit more, because someone did it for me. And that's what the agency does now, is that I don't have to speak to tournament sponsors, and neither do Tastosis, who are with EMG. It's just directly through an agent who does that for you. The scheduling becomes easier. And you let, you know, Too Good, for example, be the bad guy who says he doesn't want to come to this tournament, or he can't come to this tournament, rather than me doing it myself. And that's the kind of process it goes through when a tournament, usually it's still kind of a little bit old school. People do come up to you on Skype and be like, hey man, we really want you to cast this tournament. So the process from here usually is like, all right, well, you know, I'd love to go too, man. That's fantastic. You know, but I'm going to have to push you on to James. Too Good. So then, you know, I give him his email address. They write a formal email saying, all right, this is the dates of the tournament. This is what we require from him. Can he come? And then the negotiations start from there.
So negotiations, you know, you like you said, has to have to do with the agent and the tournament organizers now. How much input do you have in on that? So like when somebody comes up to you personally and says, hey, Shaun, I'd love to have you in something like University StarCraft League, for instance, but we can't probably afford your asking price for, say, you know, DreamHack if Robert were to come to you or something. how much input do you have in that whenever you're talking to whoever your agent is at the time? I don't think James actually... Is James actually your agent there?
Yeah.
Is
he
he
does
really?
all my negotiations for
My
me.
goodness, he's such a stud.
How'd you like
he's
to go
such
into
a
a
stud.
negotiation with that dude? Comes
Well,
in,
the thing is,
hair,
Oh
hair
my
hanging
God.
in front of his face.
Yeah.
Who's gonna take
I'm-
him serious?
I'm usually not a part of these meetings. They're usually done over email, not webcam, Skype, or something.
Are at various
they usually
clubs
get that
around
for free.
town.
But sorry, can you repeat that? I got caught up.
No,
with
I was going to
James's
say, so
hair.
how much input do you have on that? Before I guess James goes and talks to them.
So the key thing to note is time. Because it's not so much that I want to go here or do this, it's more can I do it physically. There was a time in last year, 2012, I was caught up with too much. In November, I did 4 large tournaments in 3 continents in 4 weeks. It was too much.
Wow.
So coming into this year has been a lot more like I want to limit myself to a maximum of 2 tournaments a month, maximum. So if there's 2 booked, then that's kind of how I tell James, I want to do tournaments, but I don't want to do too much. So that's the first thing that gets done. We talked together to discuss a fee for me. How much should I get paid for who I'm working for? Should we lower it because who they are? Should we hire it because who they are? And stuff like the University Star League, as you say, that's just me wanting to help StarCraft. But I have time because right now I'm in mid-transition of learning Heart of the Swarm. I was able to go and do that out of my own time and take that out of my own time to do that for the game I love, just like everybody else. So there are barriers, but for example, if a tournament says, hey man, we want to take up a slot, one of those 2 tournaments that you're doing, and come to this country. We can't pay that much. We're trying to build something. Unfortunately, James has to be a bad guy sometimes and say that he can't travel that much. He can't do that much because there's not just the tournaments that I have to do. There's YouTube videos, there's streaming, there's learning the game, which is the most difficult thing of all because I have to play so much StarCraft to be able to put across the best type of commentary. So I need to have my own time to make sure that I deliver the best quality commentary when I go to tournaments too. So the key thing there is time.
Are you able? So with that time, and it sounds like you've made that decision, like you want to put X amount of time into playing the game and understanding it better and X amount of time into actually getting paid. So is 2 events a month, is that enough to sustain your living? I mean, you don't have to give details, but I mean, are you comfortable with that at this point?
2 events a month is good. That's good
Okay.
for me to live consistently. But there's also other sources of revenue that I have too: streaming, YouTube,
Right.
contracted work as well, making videos for someone who wants this done, and there's other stuff too. So the place I'm in right now is obviously a lot better than making 300 euros an event for 4 days back in the day. So I'm very thankful of that too because I appreciate it, and I like to consider myself, in a prestigious position, and that's why I work so hard. I don't take any day for granted. If I'm slacking off one day, I feel bad. I guess I'm a workaholic because I like to work. I enjoy the game. It's my passion. So I think at myself that I've worked hard to get to this point, and I will continue to work hard for the people that expect the quality that I'm used to giving.
So how often is it that you actually go up to James and say, hey James, I want to cast at that event. Like, get me on that event.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I may sound a little bit arrogant with this, but a lot of the tournaments that I want to do are already asking me to go.
Okay.
So that makes things easier. But
Yeah.
the smaller stuff, like the University Star League, there's a funny thing with that because I told you that I wasn't meant to be there anyway, but when I was in England not so long ago, just a week ago before, I saw they announced that, I don't know if you saw it, the Nightwish video that they worked really hard on, the cameo video they did, the cover video, and I saw it and I was like, they put so much work into that. That's really good for nothing. They're not making any money. They're putting their own money into it. And I went out and tweeted them saying, I will try my best to come to your event, to enjoy it for myself. Because I love what you're doing. And I got back to Sweden and Jeeves was like, hey man, how do you fancy going to Stockholm? Let's surprise him. I'm like, well, I already told him that I was thinking about going just to go have fun. So that's kind of where the lines cross a little bit there. But for me, going up to James saying, I want to do this tournament, there aren't that many, truthfully, that's how it comes. But smaller stuff like that, when he said that to me, I'm like, dude, I'm down. You got a surprise party for them? That's going to be amazing. Let's do it, and just like that, usually.
Awesome. No, that's all. That was a great thing to do for them, and I'm sure they were super excited when they saw you there, and that's always wonderful, man. Doing stuff for the community like that. So, thoughts of Korea? Any aspirations of being there, even for short term or long term, anything like that?
So there's been a lot of talk about me going to Korea from the community and also from the people that you'd expect to be asking me, Korean companies, whether it be the Pro League or GSL. They've both asked me to go. The problem is that I have too many other commitments. I have DreamHack tournaments that, not gonna lie, I've been doing every single DreamHack tournament since the first ever one, DreamHack Winter 2010. I'm gonna be doing their tournaments this year as well. I mean, it's pretty much taken, so I have to be here to be able to do them. I want to be able to travel to other tournaments within Europe and America. And the big problem is that, like I said, I do want to do 1 to 2 tournaments a month. Am I gonna really want to travel from Korea to America, Korea to Europe, to Korea to America? It's too much, I think. And as much as I'd love to do it, I love Pro League. I think it's such a fantastic format. I love the way it's out there, and I would love to do it. I think it'd be amazing to sit down and cast Pro League for a couple of months, but I don't have that time because it's a commitment thing as well. Yeah. Because Pro League is, it's like 6 months long or so, maybe longer. I don't know. It's such a long series of games you have to be there for. And the same with GSL. Seasons are, a month and a half long, and if I went there for one, I'd most likely be asked and would like to do 2, and it's more of that I have other things to do, unfortunately, here rather than going there. I mean, if I actually, funny story, truth, might as well spit some truth, is when I was up and coming, there was a point I applied to do GSL Code A.
Oh boy, here we go.
And they offered me X amount of money. It was to go there, but I really wanted to go. It was tasteless not to. I was like, dude, come. We'll speak to GOM. They can speak to you, and maybe you can go and see what happens. So I said, yeah, okay, yeah. So this is way back when. This is probably like beginning of 2011, and they said, yeah, we'll give you, a couple $100 a day or $100 a day or something it was back then. And then I said, great, can you pay for me to come there? And they were like, I don't think so.
Oh my gosh.
Really how it works. And I was like, well, I don't have any money. I just did DreamHack for free. I don't have any money. I can't go. So, like this kind of stuff, I actually almost did go. And now that I do have the opportunity to go, like I said, I'm too busy. I have too much other stuff to do. And I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
Awesome. So there's a follow-up question to all the agency stuff that I actually just forgot. I just remembered is, for other casters, would you recommend them joining an agency right now? Because there's a lot of folks that don't have anybody representing them. They're just representing themselves.
It's a good question, and hopefully I can give a good answer. So being a caster, so going back to what I was saying before about how you negotiate your own stuff. When that happens, and let's say they do grant you that extra money, so they say, all right, $500. You say no, $1,000. They're like, no, I don't think salesman. We can do it, And then you say, no, I'm not coming then. I'm sorry, but that's what I want. And then they say, okay, we'll do it. And then you're the bad guy, right? So when you go to that event, you have to meet that guy. And then it's like, there's that awkward feeling because you just negotiated, you've just said no to them, and they had to crumble under what you said for you to go. So there's this awkward tension straight off the bat. Like, it should never, ever, ever, ever be like that between talent and a company. That should be the talent between an agency. So that's the brilliant thing with being in an agency, because like I said, James can be that bad guy. Like, he can say that I'm too busy, he's not coming, and now James is that dick that the companies have to speak to, and not me. I'm just the good guy that is too busy to go places, and that's really, really important for casters. The problem is right now is, are there any new casters that are looking to do stuff like this? You've got Bitter Dam that already with NASL that they're nailed down. Nick and Dan have EMG. You've got Cowder and Wolf nailed down. You've got Cloris nailed down. You've got me. Who else is there out there to need an agency right now? Who else is going to break into the casting scene and stuff? And I think that once players do break in, for example, let's pick up a caster who was nothing and now is something. Let's say Jorasaw, right? Yeah. Nobody really knew who he was, but now he's done some tournaments for probably a low amount of money because they're just trying to get him in, right? But now he's in, and if he would want to continue on being a better caster and being and improving himself, eventually there's going to be a point where he would need an agent eventually,
Mhm.
because there's a barrier. There'll be one line that he crosses one day, and he'll be like, God, if I had an agent, this would be easier. So that, I think there's a line. Beginning casters, no, you don't need it. The top end that are with companies don't need it, but the people that are by themselves, they do.
I mean,
Right.
it's possible. You're saying that it would be suggested, but it's possible. I mean, guys like DJ Weed, I don't think he has an agent. I mean, they handle pretty much that on their own. But you're saying that it's probably preferred that when you get to that level, it's a much better and easier situation to have somebody there kind of doing your fights for you.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But
Okay.
DJ Week's so experienced in it. He's got a
Right.
full-time job as well, so he can easily fall back on. Sorry, I'd love to come, but I have to work for Twitch.
Yeah,
so
but
it's a lot easier.
apparently he
for him.
doesn't say that, man. He's all over the place.
Oh man,
Our
DJ
guys-
Week
all
is
of you guys
He's a
are.
monster, man. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. A lot of you guys are just, it's
That's
amazing, amazing how many places you are. But when it comes to, another thing just to follow, also with the agent is that
Yep.
they have experience. They know what to ask for you.
Yeah.
You don't know if the tournament organizers, they want to pay you as little as possible. Okay, let's just be honest here, right? And so even you
That's true.
twisting their arm to pay you more, I mean, it's car salesmen right here. It's like, okay, let me go ask my manager real quick.
That's right.
And then,
I guess
come back and say,
you saying that, I guess the definition of when do I get or need an agency is when you have the power to say no. I think would be the
Yeah,
right
that's
thing
right.
to say.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yep. Okay, so next question for you. It's really about the Apollo brand. I've been seeing more and more casters, Day 9 being the first who, built the Day 9 TV. It's more of a, it's a brand now. And now you're seeing, Testosis really pushing like Handsome Nerd. And, I mean, they're doing a lot of things. Like, they even have a line of TTE gear that's coming out that they designed. What are your plans from the standpoint of pushing the Apollo brand?
All right, so my plans is be myself, continue with what I'm doing, because I think, and people are telling me, and obviously through the people that enjoy my work, that I'm doing a good job. That's number one. Keep doing the same, keep working hard, keep improving. For me to improve the Apollo brand is now Heart the Swarm is on the way. My personal goal is to be number one educator and learner. That's what I want to do. I want to be the guy that people turn to learn the game. So for me now, setting my own goals is that right now, I have to learn Heart of the Swarm to be able to do that. And then from there on out, I'm going to be able to create shows, make sure I'm casting at the same level, make sure people learn from me, because I feel that I think I've done a good job in the last year or so with what I've been doing with tutorials and different, improve with episodes I've done on YouTube, is that once the general public increases their skill level and understands the game better, it heightens the experience of tournament life, because people understand what's going on now, and it also shows. And for example, I have tweets, a lot of tweets coming in from people saying, "Hey, thank you, I got promoted from X League to Y League," and I retweet it and I say, "Good, you can do it. So can the next person." And these success stories do everything. Because I've been looking at my personal fitness for a while now, things that motivate people to go to the gym is seeing one player improve or one person improve from this level of his fitness to this level, and then you obviously now know that it's possible. And with StarCraft, it is hard. It's a very hard game to play. It's a very hard game to improve, but if you approach it the right way, I think that it's more enjoyable. I think it's more fun to play if you look at it in a different perspective. And that's what I want to be for everyone. I want to be that guy.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't seen Apollo's YouTube videos that basically teach the game, you guys should definitely check it out. He's done, how many videos now have you done? You've done a lot of them.
Yes.
How many have there been? Yes.
Yes, I have.
As you said it, I was trying to count, and then I answered at the same time. Like, yes, I have kind of count. So the tutorial episodes I initially started with, and this was just I got a cool idea, let's go with it, was to record myself playing from Bronze League in a 4-hour cut into 4-part series and explain everything I do and think about. And this become really big. Everyone latched onto it. And so I ended up doing 3 different races, Zerg, Protoss, and Terran, 4 episodes each. So we're looking at 12 videos. I then also did a revamped, which is a year later. I did the same again with new strategies, new builds to get the new players into it. So that's 24 videos. And then I've done episodes, if I have a quick look at one of my playlists, I've done a series called Improve with Apollo, which is where I ask people to email me what they're specifically having trouble with, and that becomes more of a one-on-one thing rather than a tutorial, which is for everybody. And I look at this guy's problems and try and help him and push him how to improve, push him in the right direction, give you an edge, like a coach would at a gym saying, you're not doing this right, this is what you need to do. And that's what I was hoping to do. And that caught on as well. That, got a lot of views too, because people related to it. People say, well, I have the same problem as Dave, John, and John. and people watched it, and that improved. And these are the kind of ideas that I come up with, which were great. I did map previews as well, because I don't know about you guys, but how often do you log into StarCraft and there's a new map? And you're like, like, what is this? So I like to be able to go ahead and be like, all right, here's the map. This is where all the expansions are. This is how the general rotation of the map works. And, just that's going back to the previous point, is that's how I want to approach StarCraft 2. That's how I want to continue with it too. Yeah, no, definitely great stuff, those videos. I mean, it's amazing that you cover all three races, and obviously as a caster too, you try to prep yourself that way, and it's enough to really understand one race fully, not to mention all three. So
yeah, and I wanted to ask about that. I mean, for you, because it's interesting that you do that. I mean, it's really cool. But to me, when I'm listening to you, it really sounds like you just really enjoy the game. You enjoy the tech of the game, understanding it, the strategies that are involved. I mean, so do you do a lot of these things? I mean, outside of the fact that you're marketing the Apollo brand, I mean, how much do you really enjoy doing these things? I know it's kind of a loaded question, but it sounds like you really have an interest in the game itself, the tech and understanding the game, like at a very high level.
It's, like I said, it's the thing I love. I've been in gaming since, as early as I can remember, and the thing is, I was never just a player too. I was somebody that used to watch my older brother play and ask questions and live it through him. So and then developing my own from when I had my first PlayStation, I would play by myself, and I've always had this passion for learning and improving gaming, and it's always been this way, and it still is with me now, and I love it every minute. Before, when I had a lot of time, this is something that was never really out there, because it was never recorded, is before I had access, which is probably another point I should have mentioned, a pivot point in my career, was when James brought me to Sweden, so I was able to stream, make videos to increase that Apollo brand, to make it happen, rather than going to an event every couple of months, which goes back further into the video, saying that you have to be consistent and you will drop off fast. So that's other points. And coming back to where we're talking about now, is that I love doing it. And like I said, before all this happened, I used to coach people. I used to, take a little bit of money from someone who would, call me up on Skype. We'd speak for an hour. I'd make lesson plan beforehand. So in reality, when anyone paid for an hour of my coaching back in the day when I used to do it, there was also half an hour prep going into it, or 45 minutes sometimes, maybe longer if it was really in-depth. And that was out of my free time. I'd look at their games, write down all the stuff. I'd go into the lesson with him and look for techniques to improve this guy. And then afterwards, there'd be I'd write up an email. And I did this for 6 months to a year of people doing this. And I used to do lessons every day almost, and multiple times a day. And I've just always loved it. It's what I really.
How many notebooks of notes do you have sitting at home?
Dude, that's such a great question. That is.
I mean,
we're about to talk about preparation.
Your interest in this is like it was for me when I first got started. I mean, I wanted to know almost every aspect of it and what I could do with it, and I have piles of notebooks. I still do, just keeping notes and ideas and things.
Probably 100% thrown away and 100% still. There's just so much of it. In my room back at home, I have a shelf just of massive A4 notebooks, piled, like up to 10 there, and I've thrown away just as much, because it's not just... I'm old school, man. I don't like
Google Drive, baby.
I don't like it for teaching and for writing stuff down while I'm watching. I like to watch everything there with me, pause it right. That's how I just love to do it. And so even here, I can't actually show you, because the other day, because I got back to Sweden the other day, I came in my room and I'm like, dude, I have folders, the metal grid holders where you can put folders in. I had 4 of them full. I can show you what it looks like. Hold on.
All right. This is preparation, guys. This is professionalism.
I had 4 of these stacked, with 4 books in each, right, of notebooks. And I came back to Sweden and I looked at it and went, dude, this stuff's like 2 years old. This is
I know,
so-
but isn't it cool looking back at it and going, these were the
Yeah.
notes, this was the transformation from what I was doing back then. I mean, I've probably started notes on how to create the ultimate online gaming league like 12 times. And I go back and I had to look at the notes. I'm like, geez, I forgot that one in my newest iteration of it, and it just, I'm a note guy on top of a note guy on top of a note,
Like the ones I have here, I did get rid of, but the ones at home I still have, and I have looked through them, like you said too. And it's not looking at something, being like, I look at it and be like, cringe at it and be like, what are you talking about? It's actually my complete learning process documented from start to beginning, which is pretty sick. There'd be times when I'd be looking at, how does this build work when it's intuitive now? And there'd be small little written things. There'd be coaching people who, for example, I have trouble playing mech. How do I play mech? And I'd have a written complete lesson plan or a documentation about it. So, I had everything. And, that's one of the things that also, alongside people knowing that I worked hard on looking up who players are and so on, is that I'd enter a tournament with a notebook every single time. I'd carry my own notebook. I have, there was times that it did get a bit too much. I had to limit myself because there was tournaments that were open. There was hundreds of players, and I can't do that. But the tournaments that come with 32 players or up to a certain point, I have a complete profile page on the majority of players. I still do now. When I go to a tournament, I think there was a clip of one of Grubby's highlight videos that was recently made. There was a clip from WCS Europe where the first couple of wording was, Grubby is a 7 times world champion Warcraft 3. You know that clip, right? And that was all because beforehand, I don't freaking know how many times Grubby won Warcraft 3 back in the day. I didn't follow Warcraft 3, but I did that process before, and I had it written down in front of me, my homework, ready to give the best cast possible, to make the audience believe it. And that aligns with what we were talking about before, how the casters have to be prepared. They have to make that, because that couple of sentences that I say, that Grubby's a hard-working guy who took the hits initially in StarCraft 2 because he was this Warcraft 3 legend. You don't have to know StarCraft to be connected to the game anymore. You just know that this guy was a previous world champion multiple times. You know that he's had a hard time in a new game, and now he's on a stage against an opponent he hardly beats. All of a sudden, you know what's going on, right? And this,
again, that goes back to what we talked about earlier. So we've gone full circle here about the importance of casters helping create that story and expose these players for things beyond just the one game that you're going to watch right there and then, and getting a backstory about who they are. That's awesome.
All right, let's talk about the competitive side of this, Shaun. So, do you consider that a competitive advantage versus other casters, or do you share this regularly?
I've shared it with casters that are at the event. I don't with people who aren't, because there's times that I think, what was the one time I had my notebook with me? It was DreamHack Winter, whatever it was, when Mr. Bitter casted as well, with somebody, and Day9 was there, and Tastosis, he casted with Day9, and Tastosis cast the finals, like 2000 and whatever it was, DreamHack finals. And as I was doing the first semifinals, and I had all my paper with me, and before I got off stage, Mr. Bitter came over, and I said, dude, take my notes, if you want to use them, if there's something you can get from my notes about these two players, use it. So in that sense, yes, but in terms of competition, do I think this is an edge? Absolutely, because if I work harder, and if, like I said, if I know more than the other casters, then everyone's going to be like, whoa, Paul knows so much, And there was the time that another good pivot point in my career as well was when I casted one of my first MLG event. So I talked about my first IPL event, which is when I cast with DJ Wheat. My first MLG was Anaheim last year. And for my first event, I prepared so much once again. And there was a specific style that I had researched because I was looking at players that I thought would do well. Marine King was one of them. And I specifically practiced, learned how he plays all the time. And so Marine King comes up and he plays Symbol. And I'm benched. I'm not casting. I'm like, God damn it! I know everything he's gonna do in my head. I just want to show people who I am and what I can do. And I was upset because I wasn't casting that. And it is random who casts what games usually. And then I got so lucky, and the stars aligned. And a couple of games later down the road, Marine King played against Stefano, and that was when the infamous He's gone 4X.
Yeah.
Apollo says he's going mech. You know, that total thing that blew up.
Yep.
And that was all through preparation, because I'd seen him do that on certain maps where he walled off with 4 barracks, which everyone automatically assumed that he'd be playing bio because he has 4 barracks, that I knew that he'd be doing this style. I knew where it was from. I knew who made it the first. I knew what event it was from. And I was able to give this kind of commentary in the cast. And to be honest, I'll be truthfully honest, I have not done that before. I've never done that after. That was one time that I nailed the most perfect cast I've ever done in my entire life. That is my #1 cast. And, you know, it's hard work, because if you practice one player out of how many players come to a tournament, how many times you're going to get that opportunity, it's very, very low. And a lot of work goes into it.
Yeah, but it's all about moments, right? And these moments are what propel you to, you know, just being, you know, the forefront of casters.
And then taking advantage of that moment.
Yeah,
you know,
so all that hard work, sure, it might just be for, you know, a tournament here or maybe a tournament there where it really just gets spotlighted, that hard work. But when it happens, it's an enormous value that you get from it. So,
and every tournament I go to, man, if I look at the caster list and I'm with that caster list and I look at everyone else, I'm gonna cast better than you guys. So, like, that's my competitive spirit saying I'm gonna do better.
I love it.
You guys out there,
You know,
bring it.
best work
Chris,
just as hard as I am.
he would be perfect for our little we talked about our little tournament between casters where they sit and talk trash or to each other. That'd be great.
Yeah, I never put that together. I think we need to do that sometime. But yeah, that would be awesome. But all right, let's take another break, guys. Again, this is going to be our first show where we have breaks, so excuse us if it's a little bit crazy. But yeah, we're going to be back in about a minute or two. So we'll be back. Q&A next, guys. Be ready. All right, we're back, and it is Q&A time. So any folks that have questions for Apollo or myself or John, go ahead and start typing them in stream chat, or if you want to call in, you can start calling me on Skype. My Skype ID is ChanmanV, and we'll just take them randomly. We'll take some from stream chat and some callers.
How many troll calls do you think we'll get this week?
I don't know.
Be prepared for that too, Apollo.
Okay.
We don't
Last
get
week
too
we
many.
had some troll calls.
Well, we always have the guy that always asks me to tickle his bollocks, but
Yeah, you know, he messaged me on Skype after that.
oh, did he?
Wow.
Yeah, he added me on Skype and messaged me. He's like, I would ask that question every time. I'm like, okay, you're interesting.
Great. That means you're never getting back on
Oh,
here.
somebody's asking how much Idra pissed me off. He didn't piss me off at all. I think it's funny. If anyone really wants to know, I think it's a joke. I actually think it's cool. It's good banter.
Yeah, definitely
more of
good
that.
banter. Hey, you at least made Hellspawn segment on good show.
I did?
Yeah. All right, Quinn's calling in. Let's cue in.
Hey,
Hey, buddy, what's up?
hey, I was wondering if this is a question for Apollo, and I have two, but I'm gonna just start off with one. Do you miss being a pro gamer and winning events such as WCG 2007 and Command & Conquer 3? Like, do you miss that period of your life?
Alright, I'll answer this. Truthfully, the answer is yes. Dude, so much. I play the game so much, I wish I could compete in a sense that when I cast, I almost live their experience as a player through myself. I think that's what makes my commentary a level higher, because I think that I can express their emotions as a player and put that out through the cast. But to answer your question, dude, I miss it so much. I love playing so much.
In a sense, though, would you like being pro in StarCraft instead of being a caster?
To be honest, that's a really good question too, man. I would prefer to be a caster right now because of the experiences I've had. I can, like I said, I can almost live the same emotions, not quite the same, but similar emotions that the players get through playing, which is what they drive towards the win, the victory. I can live that as a caster, and the amount of hard work that I do, I've naturally fallen in love with what I do, and I wouldn't change it for the world now. Despite missing it, it's something I do miss, but everybody misses something, right, that they can't have anymore.
Yep.
And that's something for me that I don't have the time to sit down and play. I don't have what it takes anymore to be at the best. It's something that I strongly miss.
That kind of answers my second question, which would be how much does being a pro gamer and being a pro caster relate? Like looking back at your former career, which you nearly just did for me.
For me personally, it's very similar. There's a lot of hard work that goes into being a player. There's a lot of hard work for me that goes into being a caster. The players play every day to look to improve themselves. I cast and look to improve myself as much as possible. So I think that there's a very similar mindset that makes me who I am compared to others.
Just one quick one. In one word, how would you describe winning the WCG? Like, what word would you describe winning that?
Words can't describe the feeling you get from winning a major tournament. I think that describes the feeling more so than that tournament, because I kind of, at that tournament specifically in 2007, I expected to win because I knew that I was on top of my game. At another tournament I won in 2008, which was the European Cyber Games, the Samsung European Championship, which is still in StarCraft actually. It was 2 best of 3s because I was in the winner bracket. I won the first map. I lost 2 maps in a row. I lost the first set of best of 3. I lost the next map, and I was 1 map away from losing everything, and I won the next 2. The feeling, I smashed my hands down on the desk. I took my head, and you know the emotion that pushes through, the adrenaline that's building up. Because at the same time, you have to be calm. You have to stay relaxed and focused because you will mess up if you let it get to you. And then the feeling of just letting it all go, just letting it explode, and it is something undescribable. I swear, like I try my best to describe
awesome.
what it does feel like, but words don't do the justice.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, buddy. All right, good first question.
So, Apollo, are you like the guy who's, when you're casting, you find yourself like touching the keys, like playing along? You know?
Dude, I stand up, man. I
was gonna ask you that.
Stuff.
I was going to ask you that.
You're pushing forward. You're like, go.
No, like
there's times I've shouted down the microphone, and I think that kind of emotion through being a previous player and understanding what they're going through delivers higher level commentary. For example, looking at a couple of tournaments real fast before we go to the tournaments, WCS Europe, Grubby versus Nurture. If anyone has not seen that series, watch it. I think the emotion from our voices, me and Colaris, just express and delivered it. You know, when Grubby shouts and shakes his hands, he gets his fist pumping at the end of his win and jumps out the booth. You know, we were screaming at the top of our lungs. When Thorzane won that tournament in Stockholm last year, my voice breaks through excitement of screaming his name because it is that same emotion they're experiencing. And I think that's what delivers passionate casting, just being able to, get on the same wavelength that the players are on.
Well, it'd be the question I was going to ask you is just how often have you actually gotten up and stood? Because I remember seeing a little bit of footage of Artosis doing it once, like for GSL, and that was that was an amazing thing for me to watch. So I wish we'd get a chance to see more of that from just the cameraman. But yeah, how often does that happen for you?
A lot, man. A lot. A lot more with my hands, more so than anything else. I mean, I'm quite a movie guy when I'm casting. I'm making shapes and stuff. And anybody that's seen me live, they look at me and think, "What is he doing? He's talking with his." Because I do. I put my hands up and down, and I'm if I'm saying go, my hands are moving, and there's points where it gets more intense than that, and I stand up and I'm doing it too. And probably my co-caster thinks I'm a nutter, man, but I just am in love.
Don't stop doing that. That is awesome stuff. All right, Jack Ruiz is next. We'll get you in a second, Nate. All right, I gotta quit. Hey, Jack, what's up?
Basically, I was wondering how Apollo was gonna think about. Has he ever think about looking at the UK scene in particular, and how it would be maybe getting some structure in, like Sweden has recently had the University Star League, and in NA they have a couple of like university things and stuff like that. I was wondering how in the future he has any plans of doing anything with the UK scene, because it's a bit dry over here.
Okay, that's a good question as well, and it's something that I've put a lot of thought into. The major problem is that I don't live there. Me and Total Biscuit, we tried our best at the early stages to try and do something with the UK scene. We went to a lot of UK tournaments when we both lived there. We broadcasted his Shoutcraft Invitationals. There was a point where Total Biscuit almost had one of his Shoutcraft Invitationals in a Barcraft in Newcastle. Like we tried our best when we were there, but it didn't seem to keep going as fast as we wanted it to. And if I was in England right now or back at home, I would love to do something. But like I said, the major problem is that I don't live there. But the bottom line of all this, it's something I have been thinking about, that maybe something this year I can do and help.
And one more question was going to be, I have a like a large amount of friends that are into League of Legends. And basically, one of my biggest questions and like fears and maybe things like that are, what would you say StarCraft is one of the biggest things it needs to do to get the audience that League of Legends has?
I think that's a very difficult question. It's very, very difficult to ask, but I think that the approach, I mentioned it earlier, I think the approach of many players that want to play StarCraft, who give it a go and then quit, they're approaching the game in the wrong way. I think I think what happens to a lot of players, and I've seen it happen, is they come in, they play, they lose, they get out. Very, very fast process. I think that a lot of players need to look at StarCraft as not just a recreational, fun game to relax, kick your feet up and play. You need to look at it more as something that is difficult to play. It's hard to improve, but if you put the time into it, it's something you can do. How many people look at going to the gym and go there and quit instantly? If you go there and say, I'm going to get to this level and work this hard, the satisfaction at the end of it, which I think a lot of players should do, I think it's a lot more of the players and the resources they have around it, more so than anything else I can feel. I mean, Blizzard, I think, are doing a great job with everything they're trying to put out there, but I think the approach for a lot of people is more so meaningful than anything else, if that makes sense.
All right, Jack, thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thanks
no
so
problem.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's funny because everybody keeps asking that same question, but what the real question is there, how many folks are watching StarCraft that don't watch StarCraft anymore or don't play StarCraft anymore, and then how many people are watching League of Legends that don't play League of Legends anymore? And I bet that StarCraft number is higher. And, and
it's ratios.
That's the key. Like, again, the goal for our esports, our sport, is for folks to watch that don't play our game. Right now, we're just stuck in this state right now where we're trying to monetize, trying to acquire all the folks that actually play the games because they know the game. But the end goal is getting folks that don't play this game to watch. So, all right. So Shaun, you have a question here. You want to ask from Squatch 2000?
Oh, yeah. In the in Skype. Hold on a second. I posted it. Wait a minute. Which question?
You put it in Skype here. Hey, I got another question for you, Shaun.
Okay.
All right. Honestly, Hellbat's OP, right?
Hellbats? Hellbats? Jeez. Yes, man. They are sick.
They're ridiculous.
There's games on my stream. Like, when I stream my own games, I lose to them. And then I say, I look into the camera and I say, guys, I'm going to the dark side. And the next game I load Terran, I use Hellbats and I win. Like
I can't do. I've lost like 12 times in a row to Terran. I just cannot kill them.
Yeah, and then I think it's a lot to do with the Medivac speed boost too, because even if you set up defenses, they just fly past.
Okay, so why can Medivacs not heal Hellions but can heal Hellbats? The hell?
I don't know, man. The way that they're designed, man, that's not a question for me. That's a question for one guy.
Exactly.
One guy alone.
All right.
Davey.
All right, you got that question, John?
Yeah, I found it. But I went into, there was another question. Hiwashi asks, ask Apollo about his experience in HOT so far. What is fun? What is not? Because this kind of goes along with what we were talking about. How HOT's beta compares to Wings of Liberty beta and the potential of the expansion.
Okay,
That's
so
from Hiwashi.
Hello, Hiwashi. My experience in HOTS is great. You know, I love it. I'm having so much fun right now because it's refreshing. The maps are new. The game is new for me. So my experience is great. It's an amazing experience to have right now. What is fun is just being able to play around with new stuff. It's a very refreshing feeling for me to approach the game differently with a similar mindset to obviously Wings of Liberty, but to have different things to play around with. And the final part of it, which is how does the beta compare to the old beta Wings of Liberty and the potential of the expansion. So with that, what I wish, because there are a lot of people that are hating on the beta in terms of balance, is it ready, is it not? We have to look at HOT beta and then compare it directly. At the same stage it was in Wings of Liberty, we have a game that is so developed right now in HOTS compared to Wings of Liberty. This basically means that we have 20, step-ups over Wings of Liberty. We're going to progress faster, people know the game better, and it's going to just be a less painful learning experience for everybody, because there's already geniuses out there that are playing StarCraft Wings of Liberty that will click over and switch, because the difference between Brood War and Wings of Liberty is massive. It's completely different, but the difference between Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm is not that much. So we're already starting our career in Heart of the Swarm at a very good level, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah, not to mention the replay features. Oh my god, it's just gonna accelerate all of that. All right, Nathanius wants to call in. Here we go, fellow caster. I'm sure he's got a really good question for you. Nathan, what's up?
Hello. Hey guys, not much. I'm sorry I missed a lot of this. I was like casting something and I went to go eat.
How dare you? No,
but I'm really glad that you're doing this, by the way, Apollo. I'm definitely gonna check the VOD out. But I guess one of the things that as a caster, like trying to make a name for himself or whatever, really get in and be able to do more is how do you handle reaching out to people before you get to this point where of course like you're Apollo, like people would be inclined to help you out, but like trying to reach people out for feedback, because like after trying to reach people, I've sent messages asking for feedback on casting, and of course people are often generous but don't have that across all these people, as well as just trying to reach out to people in new areas, but you don't have a contact like that know them. So
what kind of new areas? Just to expand on that, who are you reaching?
If I wanted, networking. Like if I wanted to contact someone that works for an organization whom I have no mutual friends with or something, but I felt that there might be a possible vested interest between us, like ways of approaching that, because I feel like sometimes it's a little difficult to branch out without friends. And I know you said the networking is super important, but just as someone like trying to do as much as they can, basically.
Okay, so to start off with the first part, just looking to improve and how, in terms of feedback. When I started, my feedback was from close friends. I didn't really read feedback on the internet, even if I didn't even ask for it. I didn't want it, because at the end of the day, you're in a position which they aren't. They don't know what it's like, right? They don't know what it's like to cast X amount of hours. They don't know what it's like to have pro players do things on the fly, and you have to talk about it. So when I used to and still do look for feedback, the couple of people I used to ask, pro gamers number one, pro gamers that I made
friends with through playing the game, which I can message them in-game, and also that I met at tournaments and now have their Skype info. So pro gamers, for me, looking to be my style, which is analyst, is say, how was my cast? Was my information put across in the right way, or was it not? So that's number one source, because for me, there's two different ways I look to improve. Game knowledge, which is pro players, which I get, like I said, through the ways I do. And then presentation, information, emotion development, and delivering that emotion, and so on. And the people I asked are experienced casters. So, people like Red Eye. Red Eye has a book on the internet called The 7 Laws of Casting or some crap. I don't know what it's called now.
Awesome name.
It's called something like this, right? So, he put me into that, and I read it, and I, understood it. It's not the 7 laws; it's like the 4 P's or something, like pronunciation, presentation. There's a couple of other P's in there which I've forgotten now, but I do it automatically. So, Red Eye asking someone that's already been there and done that. DJ Week was another guy I asked. Too Good, who'd been casting before he is now, was a person that I asked as well, because I knew him again, luckily through being a player. Back when I was a player, he was managing Fnatic, so we were already talking way back when. So that's how I look at feedback and try to get that. For you, what I'd recommend, the people you cast, all right? Say, message them after the game or after the tournament and say, hey, great game today, whatever. Do you mind if you have some time to maybe just have a quick look at this VOD? I've got it timestamped. It won't be any of your time. Just quickly look at it. Just listen to what I say. Is it good or is it bad? Like, that's probably the thing you do. Maybe if you don't play at a high level or something, you can't get that connection. Maybe that's a shortcut. In terms of getting out there with other influential people in the scene, that's going to be obviously more difficult to do if you don't know the connections already, which I was lucky to have. But you can maybe message people, like on Twitter, like message Mr. Bitter and say, hey man, I casted this game. How was it? Any pointers. If you want to speak, message me or email. Grab their email from NASL and go, I don't know, Mr. Bitter at NASL, whatever. And then go ahead and be like, hey man, I'm this aspiring caster. I like your work. I know you probably might not, I don't know. Yeah, I appreciate your work as a caster. I like your development. Here's a cast of mine. Please, do you mind listening to this for 5 minutes? Give me some pointers and I'm out. That's it. Because I've done that to people before. People ask me, people have emailed me. I've done it. I've emailed before. And so I think that may be an approach to get into the establishment of people who have already done it.
Throw out a net, man, and just hope, a few come back.
But you have to do it. There's so many people that just think they're going to rise to fame.
I know
based on one moment, which at sometimes gives you 15 minutes of fame. But there's so many people that have come to me even in running events, like, oh man, I can do this. I can, I'm really going to be good at running tournaments, and then you don't hear from them for like 3 weeks. They just don't do anything. They take no initiative. And we've talked about this before, but as Apollo's saying, you just have to do it.
Yeah, networking it's one of those things where it's like you try really, really hard for a long time. It's the same thing with consistency. It's like you try, and then one day you just get, you get really tight with one contact, and then it just opens up the door, like the floodgates for you. And
I think a really good thing that, as John is saying, is when I was in school, a lesson which I didn't think about at the time, but now I do, is there was some guy that come in, was talking us about confidence and just putting yourself out there. And he stood at the front of the class with a pound coin. Sorry, guys. English pound coin. Got it. Dollar bill. Stood there and says, "Who wants this?" And the class was silent. And then one guy said, "I'll have it." And then he says, "Come and get it." And he got up and went and took it out of his hands. And he says, "Right, there you go, have it." And then he, went on to explain is that, you have to be brave, be confident.
Yeah, just put yourself out there. Just
exactly.
do it.
And the other part of your question in terms of looking for connections for, I don't know, maybe you're looking to do a live tournament for one. Why don't you look at people on Twitter, like all MLG staff, for example. Again, I'm putting MLG under the bus right now. MLG staff have Twitter. You go ahead and be like, I'm an up-and-coming caster. I'd love to commentate on one of the community streams they have. That's how a lot of other casters got up. Axel Toss, if I'm not mistaken, started on a community stream. So did Adam BC. So did Tumba. All these guys, got a leg in. And and they developed it from there. When I started as a caster, I mentioned it earlier on. I emailed GOM TV, be like, "Hey man, let me cast Code A." That's how I did GSL. And my first ever tournament I ever casted live was in Touchscreen Masters. And I said it earlier too, is that like you said, you didn't watch the video this stream on earlier. You watched it in the VOD. Is that the first thing I did is I got back from Korea, which you'll see in the video later, and emailed a company saying, "Hey, I know Day9 is casting." Obviously, it's not going to be on the same proportion you're at now, but Day9 is casting this tournament. He's solo casting at the moment. I'm a caster. I've done this work. He linked a couple of odds. I've just got back from here doing this. Is there any chance that maybe I can cast with him? Obviously, it's not going to be on that scale now, but is there any chance I can run a community stream for you guys? Are you interested in me running a separate stream? Because maybe they don't have enough talent at the event itself, but maybe you can do casting from home, and then if you get yourself out there, which John said, then you get the recognition, which you have done with Pro League, by the way. So good work on that.
Yep.
And from there on, it'll only get better and stronger, right? So, but then if you listen to the video again, this climbing the ladder video, consistency is very, very important, and you will drop off fast. For example, if you stop Pro League in a couple of months' time, I don't think people will remember who you are, right? So you have to keep getting the opportunities, making the opportunities happen for you, and just pushing out there.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I can even speak from my standpoint. It's a lot of ups and downs, like doing this and trying to get some traction. But you just have to go with it. There are going to be some great days, and there's going to be some, a lot of just really slow, long days. But you just got to push through it, keep doing what you're doing. Like you said with Pro League, and it'll happen for you eventually.
Kalaris is a good example,
Yeah.
actually. I think he just did YouTube videos. He casted for Mouse Sports for probably no money, just covered their tournaments on their YouTube, become a stronger caster because of it, and eventually ended up having a contract at ESL.
Exactly.
All right.
Nathan.
Thank you very much. Have an awesome day.
All right,
Thank you,
thanks,
man.
buddy.
Thank you.
All right, good question. Okay, let's see. I had something I was going to ask you. I just can't. Question about you talked a little bit earlier about just who are the free agent casters nowadays? Like who hasn't been picked up by somebody? Is that what's going to happen eventually? I mean, eventually, are you guys not going to be doing other like MLGs and DreamHacks if you're not already on their staff? Like for you, for instance, like I mean, you're not affiliated to a tournament organizer yet. So that you're still kind of more freelancing, right, than some of the others. But you're right. Like Mr. Bitter and Rotterdam are at NASL, and Kalaris with ESL, and Tixtos and those guys were with GSL.
Yeah.
Is it ever going to be like, first off, is it ever just going to be just the tournaments are not going to ask any casters outside of their organization anymore? Is it ever going to get to that point?
I feel it may already be there, because if you ask yourself right now, Chris, you go ahead and say, I'm going to host a StarCraft 2 tournament, climbing the ladder, and I have this amount of money. Are you going to go ahead and get someone that doesn't have the experience to pull off what you need compared to someone that does? And I think that's the real big point, because StarCraft has developed enough that if you want to please your sponsors, you want to please the people that have invested in you to make this happen, are you going to take that risk with someone unknown, which at the start of StarCraft 2, where everybody at the top end of casting has been, there was the risk being able to be taken back then, because nobody knew anything. But now, because we're at this level, is that if you host a tournament, it doesn't go down well in terms of broadcasting, which tournaments have had happen, does that now potentially ruin your next tournament? Does that not get the viewers it should have done? Does that mean that the people that invested the money into you, promising that you could get this amount of viewership over the weekend, not impressed? And so I think right now it's a very difficult stage for new casters to break in. Kalaris, an exception, super exception, because ESL had nobody when Mr. Bitter and Rotterdam left, and they needed somebody. And ESL took that chance. They said, all right, we have to. There's no one else. We don't have a StarCraft 2 caster. Kalaris, you're in. And he had that opportunity, was very gifted in that sense, but he's delivered, on their risk. But how many opportunities like that are going to happen unless you work your way from the very bottom and you climb the ranks, which is going to be very difficult? And
wait, climb the what?
climb the ladder.
Oh, the ladder.
Oh, I
Right.
see.
Yeah,
I see.
climbing
Okay.
the ladder. Okay.
You know,
Okay,
so I
okay.
think it's
Got
very
it.
difficult for new casters right now, because at one point it was oversaturated and now it's undersaturated, because I don't think companies are willing to take that risk anymore when there's already people out there that can do it. But that's up to them whether they take that risk. That's up to you whether you believe in yourself and you can make them believe in you to be able to give them the product that they want.
Right. Those are all great points, but my question was more along the lines of like, will the organizations just stick with their casters?
Yes, is the answer. Like, that's kind of what I meant. Yes.
No. So DreamHack, you can see DreamHack not hiring you at some point, unless you work for DreamHack.
I can't see them not hiring me. I don't think there's going to be a chance where they turn around and go, Paul, you've done a good job for a couple of years, but we're going to get someone. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think unless, Mr. Bitter and Rotterdam of the NSL are ever going to turn around and be like, guys, good job, but we're going to get someone. It's not going to happen. And the same in every company worldwide that has casters there. I don't think that will happen. I mean, unless something drastic happens, then I think it's going to stay the way it is.
If all of the organizations have their what we would call in-house casters, then do you feel that it's going to be more difficult for people that are looking to get into casting to have an opportunity to get in to these spots? Because in a sense, all the organizations are going to have their own in-house casters.
Yes, this is also difficult too, because if you think about it, 2 slots at MLG for casters are going to be taken up all year. Why would they hire 2 casters that won't do their live event? It doesn't make sense. So now there's 2 slots left for people to fight over, depending on how many casters they want and the budget they have. So your point,
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think before it had more to do with price points, just budgeting, right, in the past. And obviously when the tournaments start to make more money, it'll be less of an issue. And I think the experience level and the points that you pointed out earlier are going to be the most important things.
But the thing is as well is that I'm talking much more about you are the face of this tournament now. You're casting the mainstream. There are many to cast lower streams for that specific tournament, right? There is always going to be people needed to help out, because at tournaments, including budgets, 2 to 4 casters. DreamHack used to have, and it may still be the same, I don't know, 2 casters for an entire tournament, and we were so tight. There had to be additional streams to cover the games. MLG have always had their community streams, and IPL has had many different streams. They have like 10, 15 casters per event. So there are opportunities out there, but you're not going to get the same opportunity that I had, for example, where I'm straight in the spotlight.
Yeah, that's the reality of it, guys. Like, just like with players, the issue of having multi-tiered type of tournaments. It's the same issue with casters too. I mean, there needs to be a place for casters that are up and coming too. So hopefully,
and take advantage of it when you do get that opportunity.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
I've seen people they're like, oh well, I'm at the mid tier, and they accept that. Well, if you accept that, that's where you're going to stay. You're not going to go any higher.
Yeah, just like in any other job, any other businessman, opportunities come so rare.
And you had talked about this earlier, Apollo, and this is interesting because you don't hear this a lot from casters. But in a sense, you have to look at. I mean, and I'm not a caster, but I would assume that, especially based off what you said, when you go into this, you have to go into it thinking, I have to beat every single one of these other people that are trying to get into this if I want to get to the next level. So it is a competition. I mean, you have to treat it that way.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Ale has a question for you, Shaun. Have you ever thought about doing something similar to Artosis and trying your luck at Code B and quenching that competitive thirst?
Code B for Artosis is very easy for him to just get up, leave his house, go on the subway 10 minutes and do, right? Even if he's not practicing, he can still do it anyway. For me, I just can't. I mean, Code B is something that doesn't happen very often, and the Code A qualifiers don't happen very often, so he can just come around and do it. For me, there's nothing like that apart from online stuff. I mean, when am I going to go to a DreamHack Open and try from round 1 when I'm going to cast it? And that's looking at where I live in Sweden.
I would be impressed. All right, if you qualify for DreamHack and you casted at DreamHack, all right, you'd be the stud of esports. Okay,
Casting my own
I
game.
would bow down to you if you were able to do that. Oh my god, that'd be amazing. But you mentioned talking to players and getting feedback. like, which players are you talking about? Because the players that I've heard from, there's a little bit of a, tension between players and casters, right? And
All right.
in some ways, yeah, here we go. And I mean, I can put Exhibit A, right? We have Naniwa,
Yep.
right? He is the like primary example of that. And then on the other side, we'll just put you. So, yeah, I mean, so asking players for feedback, isn't that kind of, I don't know if that is that productive, really?
Players, in all honesty, the right players love it. Like, they love it. There's so many players. Like there was the WCS Europe when I did my extensive work on players. I found players' Skypes and asked them questions about themselves. Like, I went up to Baby Night, I found his Skype, and I'm like, hey man, you have a couple of minutes, I just want to speak to you just to know more about you, your personality, to give that to my... And they're like, you taking your own time out of this? The misconception from a lot of players is that casters are rich, they make lots of money, they go to these events and they get rich more than money, blah, 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 right? But when they really know, I think Huck is someone that has motivated me a lot in my progression as a caster, because he messages me personally and says, good job. If there's anything you need, ask me. Because if players see you work hard and know that you're not just trying to wing it, they respect you so much more. And players respect Halitosis. They know he works hard. Players respect me because they know I work hard. And I think once that is made, then it is so easy to ask the players for help, because at the same day we're all in the same boat. They're looking to improve, I'm looking to improve, we're joining this together, and that's kind of how you look at it. But the also thing that I think that a lot of people talk about, player salaries, caster salaries, they're two completely different things. Casters are employed, players are making prize money. It's very, very different. And players are living off sponsor deals from teams that spread their money. Casters are getting paid specific money to be there. So when you look more smartly at the situation, then I think players just get it. They kind of just get it. They understand it. And I think once that's done, I mean, for example, if a caster that was lazy, that didn't do anything, that wanted a free ride off a player, they'd say, no man, do your own work, But when they realize that you're trying to do something like this, then it makes a lot more sense for them to help you.
Right. Cool. All right, how about one last question or call in, and then we will call it a night.
Well, can I ask a quick question, or are you taking a call in?
Go ahead and ask it while I get this.
Okay, so I did my homework, and I looked you up a little bit. Thank you, Liquipedia. And what caught my eye was that you played poker. And I asked you earlier, it was Texas Hold'em. So, real quick, because we are running out of time, but just tell us a little bit about your poker experience.
All right, so I left Command & Conquer kinda in the end of 2007, beginning of 2008. I won my World Championship. I won the European Championship. Coming into the summer of that year, I was already, as mentioned, on to Korea. I met my poker friend. So that's where it all began. Poker influence from a poker friend who was living off poker and pushed me in that direction. He taught me the basics. And when you learn poker from the ground, I played 1 cent, 2 cent for a month, just to kind of. I started my bankroll at $10, and actually a good example is Elke. Elke, if you know poker,
so
you know
stud.
Elke. Okay, Brood War player. Elke and all of his friends that played Brood War back in the day in Pro League in Korea, they all know. I swear to God, started with like a $50 bankroll, and they made millions. Because with a $50 bankroll is that you approach poker as you approach StarCraft. There's different leagues. There's different limits, right? They are your leagues. For example, when I started, I played 1 cent, 2 cent, Bronze League. And what you do is you aim. The structure of learning poker is very similar to StarCraft and gaming, which is why the connection's there, right? So my experience in poker, 1 cent, 2 cent. You start at $10 it was back then because I had no money. I built up to $20, $30, $40, and at $40 I'm really comfortable in playing 1 cent, 2 cent now because I have $40. And the rule of thumb is you always play a limit. The limit rules, when to know move up and down, is 20 buy-ins, safety net there, 20 buy-ins for your limit. So 1 cent, 2 cent, you buy in with $2. Times that by 20 is $40, right? So you've got your limit. And then you move up. The next level, usually, PokerStars and so on, is 2 cent, 5 cent. So you buy into 2 cent, 5 cent with $5, times up by 20. Now you have this money, right? So you've got, $100 ready to go. And you increase every level, every limit. You need to have specific bankrolls, because bankroll management is the number one learning resource of playing poker, because there's variables. You can lose a 90% win chance, right? And if you don't have this sustainability behind you as a poker player, then you will lose everything very fast. But if you have, 20 buy-ins, you can lose a lot of buy-ins. And the key point as well here is that, let's say I make $100, I go to 2 cent, 5 cent. Let's set a limit where I move back down to my previous limit, $60. So now if I lose $40 playing at that limit, I hit 60. I then move down another limit, back to where I begun, and I'm at 60. And now I have to work back to 100 and attempt that limit again. And that's the way that real online professional poker players, majority of them were built like that. And that's how I was. 1 cent, 2 cent, 2 cent, 5 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent, 10 cent, 25 cent, 25 cent, 50 cent, and then I played at my limit comfortably, which was back then 50 cent, $1. And that was, X amount of buy-ins, a lot of whatever that is.
Yeah.
So that's how I played back then, and that's how I made money playing.
Okay. Did you ever beat anyone in an all-in with a 7-2 in your hand?
No, I didn't.
You never bluffed your way in an all-in.
That was the hand that, whoop,
if you're playing cash, there's no scenario where you'd be in that position. If you're playing tournament, probably, right? But yeah.
Okay.
No, that's great advice. I mean, yeah, bankroll management and structured discipline progression is
And that
the
pretty
most
much applies
important
to
thing.
everything we're doing in esports
Yeah.
too.
But it's even more
That's
dangerous in poker, because you're talking
yeah.
about money. So all
Real
right,
money.
last call. I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name. Najma. This is dangerous, guys. This is dangerous.
This could be troll.
This is dangerous, but we'll see. If not, then okay. All right. Well, why don't we take just one more? Anybody any question with the stream chat? We'll just take one more. I guess he's gone. So last question for Apollo, guys. Anything? It's been
So they
great,
were
man.
asking about. Okay, wants to know if you'll be playing the new Command and Conquer.
No.
No. Well, that was quick.
Ouch.
Well, there's your
Ouch.
answer.
I'm fully StarCraft committed. I don't have time.
But it doesn't interest you in the least bit.
I played Command & Conquer Generals. Command & Conquer 3 was a game that I played to win WCG. I didn't play it because I loved it. That was just to win. I played Command & Conquer Generals, which I fell in love with. Generals 2 is the next game coming out, and I want my memories to live in peace. Because I know the way that EA work, and EA will not make that game good. The game made back then was made by Dustin Browder. It was a spin-off. It was an amazing game. And I don't want to... It would ruin every good memory I have if I played it, so I'm not even going to look at it.
That's good.
Sure.
That's a good way to look at it, man.
I got one more question.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about this before, and I'm going to put you on the spot. If Chris and I were to organize some sort of caster tournament, just real simple, real fun, lighthearted, would you play in it?
If every other caster out there played it, yes.
Wait. There's one caveat to it. There's one caveat to it, Shaun.
Okay. What's
You
that?
can talk to each other the entire time.
Yes. During the
On
tournament.
On air.
Yeah.
On air.
If
So everyone can-
every other caster out there that's famous, that
Oh,
you know
come
you
on.
see, yes.
Oh.
Oh my! That
What if we
that,
get?
that means no.
What if we
That
get
is a no.
75% of them.
A polite no.
Well, if some say no, why can't I say no?
True.
Oh,
It's true.
Brother. Hey, having him on this episode is good enough for me. This guy is busy, so I really appreciate you coming on, Shaun. It's been awesome.
And do we have to go through James for this?
Oh
No.
God! Oh,
no.
wait.
And you
Actually,
get a list of sign-up casters, and everyone says yes, I'll play in it, and I'll be the last one you ask. And I look at that list, and they want 100% confirmed. I will sign my John Hancock right there.
Okay.
all right. But anyway, Shaun, it's been a blast, man, having
Yep.
you on, and hopefully had a good time yourself.
Yes, man, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming out. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this, so I didn't know.
Painless,
really.
right?
Good.
Painless.
It's good.
Yeah, but we'd love having you on again in the future sometime when you get a chance. But why don't we do some shout outs and thank yous at this point? Do you have any you want to do?
Yeah, so shout out to Chris Chan for having me on. Thanks, guys. And
I
John,
feel so
thank
good.
you. And then just shout outs to everyone that follows me, that are watching right now, that follow everything I do. So thank you, guys. It does mean a lot for me. What pushes me to keep on doing better, and that's what I'll continue to do for the rest of the year and from there. And then just my usual stuff, which is, if you don't really know who I am, I'm Apollo. I'm Shaun. Hi. You can follow me on Twitter, ApolloSC2. I also have Facebook, which is Apollo Starcraft, and I also have a YouTube, which is Apollo SC2.
Beautiful. John, you want to do some shout outs?
Okay, first thing, I'm having a follower battle with someone.
Who?
And I need more followers if I'm going to talk trash to Idra, because then I have no backup. He's got like 20 times the followers I do. So you're welcome to follow me on Twitter, and you can unfollow me next week. That's okay. I just need him to win this contest.
Who is
I'm
it?
going to post. It's just with Adam Legit. He's a caster. He does different casting for different games. Good guy. But we had the exact same number of followers, and he mentioned it, so we came up with a little contest. I'm going to post a link in the chat. This is for a tournament that I've created the graphics for, and I'm kind of just helping with a little bit. It's a StarCraft 2. It's like the first time I've posted in Team Liquid in a month. I feel bad about that, but just been so busy. It is looks like it's going to be a pretty solid tournament. I can tell you that the 2 invites to it, there's going to be 4 invites total, and then 12 people that qualify from an open bracket. 2 of the 4 invites are already known. I know them, and one is a female. That's the only clue I'll give you, and the other is a really cool guy. I think a lot of people follow. So we'll announce those later. But there's that, and then look for good things from the company that I'm working with now, and that's PlayIGL.com, or the International Gaming League. We're gonna bring back the Playhem style of things, we hope, in a lot of ways, and some leagues and ladders and so on. So that's my shout outs, and thanks, Apollo, for coming on. Talking with you about your notebooks and stuff, actually I was like giddy about that. People don't understand that, but I love that sort of stuff. It was good, and it was a good show today. Thanks.
Yep, got to put in the work, man, and definitely Apollo does the work, so deserves all the love he gets. And continue, obviously, supporting Shaun here, and myself and John. You can follow us on Twitter. Our Twitters are all in the overlay, so when you get a chance, if you enjoyed the show, follow the channel here on Twitch, and all the VODs are always on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ChanmanV, and I'll have the VOD for this up shortly after. But always a shout out to my mods for helping out, moderating the chat, and always, I'm always bouncing ideas off them. So big thanks for them, always helping out with that. Obviously Shaun for coming on, John for always co-hosting, and everybody just continue supporting esports. And the great thing about Heart of the Swarm is that you're starting to see a lot more of these kind of smaller casual tournaments for casual players just popping up again, and it's great to start seeing more of that. And speaking of just more casual and just community sort of things, next week we're going to have David Ting back on to talk about all the IPL 6 announcements, because he had to reschedule from last week. And then we're going to have Mr. KMJ, Kevin Johnson, on, community manager for Blizzard, to come and talk to us about just Blizzard and what everything that they're going to be doing in terms of Heart of the Swarm, and hopefully some talk about the launch and some great things there. So tune in next week for that, guys. Until then, this is
Wait.
Okay.
First, don't say peace on the way out the
I
door.
won't.
Okay. You said that before you did. The second thing, we got to pay. We need to pay it forward. And I thought about, what are we going to pay it forward to? Everything's going on right now at the same time. Did you notice that?
Let's look. Yeah, Shaun, you look too. Who should we send folks to?
Well, Real Talk. I mean, if Real Talk's still going, that would be a good spot to go to.
You could instead of saying call the dwarf, say call the what should it be? Call the
Chan.
Call the Chan. There you go.
Call the Chan.
Go to JP. Go to JP and Scoots. Real Talk with Scoots, guys, and tell them, call the Chan.
Because that could be a good conversation. Call the Chan. Go over to watch Scoots. on JP's show.
There you go.
All right.
And and the last thing, I think for the pick too on the front, I got to go off of Liquipedia, so I'm not sure actually who the originator is, but we'll just credit Liquipedia for that picture for now. But yeah. So anyways, this is gonna be climbing the ladder for this week. This is ChanmanV, John Clark, and Apollo signing off. No peace.
You did it.
V.
You did it. See ya.